Back on the Rob Dibble Show. Happy holidays, everybody. Woo! Especially this man, Kevin Kernan, our favorite, from ball9.com. Well, the Wilpons were terrible for the Mets. What do you think about Steve Cohen going the other way, Kev?
Well, it's the Queen Zoo right now, right? Just like the Bronx Zoo many years ago with Steinbrenner, and it's almost like Steve. You know, he only made $1.7 billion last year, so he's saying basically enough is enough. Too bad. And this proves my point, though, Dibs. And you being a former player, teams can afford this stuff if they really want to go after it. And good for the Mets. I would consider Correa as a second baseman even before we move forward with other stuff, simply because it's the new no-shift rule. So shortstop, you need almost two shortstops up the middle. I don't know if they thought of that, but that would be something I would do. I wrote a column last week, Dib, saying, you know, the SCF, meaning that this is the era we're in, and the yes was a dollar sign, by the way. So we said Steve Cohen factor. I predicted all these kind of things in the column, and he's forced other owners to step up. You know all the numbers: $100 million tax, this and that. They're nearing towards a $500 million expenditures this year. And he's not going to be denied. He's not going to be denied, but it still comes down to the field. And I talked to a scout today who said, you know what, he had to do this simply because the Phillies got better, and the scout believes the Braves are better. And this guy, his job is to scout the NL East, so he knows for sure. So this still, as crazy as it sounds, this doesn't put him over the top, but it sure helps.
I still like the Phillies lineup better when Harper comes back. What do you think?
Exactly. You still got Bryce Harper. Let's argue. You know, we can argue, but the best player in the game, and you got Trey Turner in an energizer, which you need now. You need a guy who initiates runs and creates runs. So the Phillies lineup is good, and Correa. The only thing I would say about Correa too, the only thing I think the Giants are a joke, and I've said it on the show many times with their management. They don't know what they're doing. You see it when they walk around the grass with their shoes off before games, that kind of stuff. But they were obviously scared off by something. Now I talked to a lot of people, and they said it could be some people in Houston were a little concerned about shoulder issues with him, not the back, but the shoulder. And I've been in the clubhouse many times. I remember a few years ago when he had the back issues, he seemed to straighten that all out. But you can't go that far as the Giants and not have that. You know, first of all, you got to have the exam right away. You can't wait a week, and you can't have everything they did was wrong. Everything. I mean, it's I call them the swing and miss Giants. That's who they are now.
You kind of answered my question right there. I was just wondering what they had saw that the Mets don't care about. But what about shortstop position? It feels like this is back to being the premier position as far as getting paid. Does it have a lot to do with the no-shift rules that are coming next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. It has a lot to do with it, I think, because that you need those players, and you can argue that he was a year ahead of his time by getting Lindor, and I think Correa would be great for Lindor on a couple of levels, whether he's at third base, second base, or whatever, because I think he's more of a leader that Lindor looks up to, so Lindor won't be kind of like a little bit too Lindorish, if you know what I mean. I think he'll keep him under control a little bit, and actually will get the best out of Lindor. So I think what we're back to your question again, we're back to strength up the middle. You know, they got Nimmo, you got the shortstop, and wherever you play Correa, they still have a problem at catcher in my book, but that could be fixed. You know, you can fix that several ways. But strength up the middle is the new thing because you got to realize we're dealing with a generation of GMs who never had to have infielders that could move because they would place them somewhere. You know, they would place them all these positions. So these guys, they're a little. I think the analytic guys are panicking now because they don't know what's coming down the pike, and that's why you see the crazy money. For the shortstop. And again, back to the Giants, they misplayed it so badly they couldn't have even gotten the physicals done right where they could have pivoted to Swanson. So it's really interesting what's happening in baseball. The haves and have-nots have never been greater, and it's a choice that ownership has made. It's a question of how much money they want to make. Do they want to make boatloads of money, or do they want to make, Steve Cohen's obviously going to make money. We're going to see also with the TVs and the casinos. I don't know if you guys heard. No, he's working on getting a casino built over there. I mean, they're going to be printing money if they're successful.
All right, moving forward, I mean, the Giants have missed out on Judge, Turner, and now, with Correa, where do they turn? I mean, even if Judge or any of those guys is in that lineup, I still think it's a crappy lineup. Right. I think you're way overpaying for one guy. You're putting a Band-Aid on like a missing limb wound, and it's not really going to help them. Dodgers, these guys fit right in. You're fitting into an all-star team. The Mets is another all-star team. Yankees are an all-star team. I mean, where did the Giants go in all this?
Well, don't forget too, they missed out on Harper way back when. So that's why they're swinging Miss Giants, because they don't seem to have a great plan. Even though everybody was telling me how smart this guy was when he came from the Dodgers, and I don't think they go any. I think they've lost like 1 million fans recently. I think. If I'm the Dodgers now, I punt and start over and look towards the future and wait till next year. You could always say they can go to Ohtani, but with Ohtani, why would any? And that's what Judge's final decision was, by the way. He looked at the lineups and said, "Well, this is different. I got nobody to help me in San Francisco, and nobody's going to go there unless they're damaged goods, trying to maybe salvage their career." The Giants, I think, are at square one, and they better recognize that and play it that way. I heard an interesting thing the other day. I was talking to somebody who was friends with Brian Sabian, who won 3 championships and with that team, and was still, he was in one of these consulting type roles. But I heard he doesn't even step foot into the Giants facility because he doesn't want to deal with these people. So that tells you all you need to know. A great baseball man like that doesn't want to have anything to do with them in any capacity. So I think the Giants are done across the board. I think San Francisco is they just got to – what I would do is I would focus on pitching, and I would focus on what I'd say is the new steroid base running, and get my players to play aggressive Mike Scioscia type baseball. And hope for the best and try to win that way, because that's how you're going to win out there. The Giants should have signed Nimmo too. They could have went all out. What you're seeing on the Mets could have been the Giants. Imagine if the Giants added Nimmo, Judge, and Correa. Why not? It's crazy money, but they've been making so much money for years that changes the whole focus of who they are. So the other side of the coin is Steve Cohen has been the best thing that could happen to Hal over at the Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner, because he forced Hal to really step up and sign Judge. I think if Hal hadn't done that, I don't think Judge would have came back, because it almost was good cop, bad cop. Cashman was the bad cop. You saw it in the Time comments, in the Time magazine thing about, Judge wasn't happy, and you saw that it was Hal who did all the negotiations. So Steve Cohen has forced Hal to become George, and it's really going to New York. I mean, it's going to be fascinating the whole summer. It's going to be amazing, and we'll see too. How will them? And do they have the? And I think Verlander is that kind of guy. Here's another interesting thing with DeGrom gone. DeGrom always gave you those great games, but couldn't push the button to get the W for whatever reason. They didn't give him runs. He did, last year he struggled a little bit, and whereas Verlander has been always the guy that can get the W and find a way. Will this team be able to find a way and withstand the pressure, all this that's going to be expected of them now? And I think you literally almost have yourself an all-star game, and that all-star team, and that's another reason why you could easily drop McNeil in the left field. You could still keep Escobar. I mean, there's so many things they can do now, and we've seen that money is no object. Money is no object for Steve Cohen and you had me on way back when. What did I say about him? He's an art collector who's going to become a baseball player collector. Spending billions on art. He's spending billions on baseball, just collecting another player here or there or whatever he needs them to fill in. And so it's going to be good times for Mets fans. At least they know they're going to be in every fight. Now we'll see if they have the gumption to stand up and win those fights.
Boston Red Sox send J.D. Martinez to the Dodgers with his friend Mookie Betts. They've got Xander Bogaerts now in San Diego. And we saw a report yesterday that Rafael Devers and the Boston Red Sox are way far apart.
Galaxies
apart.
Far apart.
Yeah.
What do you know about Devers and the relationship with the Red Sox moving forward?
It's horrible. It's over. And he'll move. You know, that would be a guy that San Francisco can pivot towards if I were them. That's how you clean it up, maybe. You trade what you got for that guy. And you know, Chaim Bloom wants younger players. So does Tom Werner. You know, don't forget, I was with Tom Werner in '93 when he brought, in the '90s when he brought the Padres. And the first press conference he walked into, I said, Tom, why do you think you're going to be a good owner? And he said, well, Kevin, I just won my fantasy league. So, not making it up. That's a true quote, and that was on the record. Exactly. I was like, what? You know, and so what we're seeing now is the true Tom. You know, Tom's got his 4 titles. John Henry's got his 4 titles. They got all their sports things. So if I'm San Francisco, I pivot really hard to try to get Devers there to start the rebuild. And I don't know if I can get him. I don't know if he'd want to stay there. That's the other thing, fellas. You guys know what it's like playing in San Francisco. It's not an easy place to play. You got California taxes. You got a million things staring at you, and you got that ballpark. You know, it was another ballpark built beautifully, but it was built not for the hitters. Even though Bond showed what you could do there. So it's pretty ironic too. I thought of this today, and this is how. You know, my head is spinning because of all this stuff. But all the years with Barry, PEDs and everything, isn't it ironic the guy that they want to get to replace Barry in a way can't pass a physical? They're physical. So that's another irony of ironies that we're dealing with every day now, Major League. The other great thing is, and Dibs, I think this is good for the game. We are seeing the charlatans who are in the front offices now being exposed.
Yeah.
Yes,
we're
for
seeing
what
them
they are.
exposed.
Yeah.
Yep, and I think that's a great thing for baseball. The pendulum, I wrote about it about a month ago, is starting to swing back with the Bochy's. But I also heard guys like John Russell. You know, John Russell's a good baseball guy. I heard the Mariners are interested in him for like a AAA manager. I've heard some good baseball people have been offered jobs again as coordinators in systems because teams are figuring out that this doesn't work and we need real baseball people back. And I think in the end, this will be a great thing for baseball. And Billy Epler, I used to say that Theo Epstein was the luckiest guy in baseball, had a horseshoe up his butt. But Billy Epler is now the luckiest guy in baseball.
Hell yeah, he is. Hell yeah. And like you said, a good friend of mine that I just talked to, he's getting back into baseball after a couple of years. The Red Sox let him go. I'm not going to tell you what organization, but
no, you don't have to. No, same thing with me. I've been hearing a lot of organizations are doing that. And the question is now, that takes time, so you got to have a little patience with that. But if you start teaching base running, all the little things, and there's so many competitive athletes out there that want to really show up and do things. You know, you need dirt dogs now, and the smart teams are going to. And that's the beauty of my man Aaron Judge. And I've said it for years. He's an ultimate player, but he's also an ultimate competitor. Thank God they got that guy back. And once they signed Rizzo, it looked like, that was probably going to make it happen. But that's what you need to make it happen nowadays. It's no more, and here's the other theory I have there, too. I think the guys that are still crazy about, trying to pull for home runs, they're still going to struggle. They're still going to struggle because they're going to be trying so hard. They'll get that occasional single that was caught by the right fielder in short right field. But they're still going to struggle, and there's still going to be a ton of strikeouts. So the teams that put the ball in play, use the field, run the bases, and Correa does all that stuff, by the way. So that's Lindor does all that stuff for the Mets. McNeil does all that stuff for the Mets. So the Mets are actually kind of like not only spending the money, but they're spending the money on the guys who play baseball and are successful, and that's the key.
Go ahead.
I just wanted a quick Christmas present from KK because I've been the only thing I've been upset with my Chicago Cubs KK has been this Dansby Swanson deal, and I've been telling Dibs about it.
They didn't overpay.
But now looking at this Correa deal, it's like, it doesn't look as bad.
Right.
Give me some like a Field of Dreams, ease my pain on Dansby Swanson. Why do you think that he could work out in Chicago?
I actually like Dansby Swanson. I think he's a guy who needs a little guidance, but once he starts hitting the ball and stops swinging for home runs all the time, I think he'll figure it out in Chicago. I think that's going to be an under-radar successful signing. I really do. I've been very critical of the Cubs. They couldn't get their own way on so many things, but I really liked it. I thought he was pivotal for the Braves in so many ways. And, again, I've been in clubhouse with these guys. I've seen how they act and how they talk to their teammates. He's a great teammate. And now he's got to cut back on his strikeouts. But I think he can play in that kind of bad weather up there in Chicago. I think he can make those adjustments, and I think that could be the beginning of them straightening it out a little bit. Although I will have to say, as a negative, losing Contreras, I think, to the Cardinals really hurts.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's to me that's
move on. Just don't even talk about it.
If that kid wants to play, he's a great player. That's the guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy that could really be a game changer out there. But the Cubs. I'm good friends with the guy who runs Marquee Network, and he wanted to fly me out there and talk about the Cubs. And I flat out told him, I said, I don't want to talk about the Cubs until you guys get better. So don't even waste my time.
Good for you.
So, so that's where I am with the Cubs. But again, during that division, anything can happen because, half the teams aren't trying. And so it's not the worst situation. I think it actually fell in, and also timing. If this has happened a week earlier, Dansby Swanson's with the Giants, so you don't even have that fixed.
All right, so tell me what you know about Kodai Senga or this other kid, Yoshida. How good are they going to be coming over from Japan?
I had to see Ichiro with my own eyes first, and I knew right as soon as I saw him hit a triple in the spring training game, I said, wow, let's get something. I'm not as high on these two guys for a couple of reasons. Scouts and talent evaluators I respect. Again, I haven't seen either of them, so once I get my own eyes on them in spring training, I'll know more. But Singer, they tell me, number 3 starter, in love with the fork ball, doesn't control the fastball. That could be trouble in the major leagues. But he's got Verlander there, he's got Scherzer there. Maybe he'll learn quickly. He's obviously got some talent, but don't oversell him. He's a number 3 starter, which is fine, what they need at best. I would even say number 4 starter. I wouldn't oversell him. The other guy they say doesn't play as much defense as he should, and again, they don't make enough contact. But it's so important on the adjustments they make. If they make the adjustments, and don't pay attention to early spring training, because that's when these guys are working their thing. So you got to let it play out with the Japanese players. I don't believe anything with basically what the Red Sox are doing, that they know what they're doing in the big picture with things. So I don't trust anything the Red Sox are doing now, so I'm not sold on the guy they signed until I actually see him. And Senga, he's a nice number 3 starter, which is fine. You need that. Walker's in Philly. That's another one. We didn't mention Walker. That's a nice little pickup. That's a great little pickup. Dave Dombrowski knows baseball. It's really that simple.
Does.
And this is going to be fun for Buck too now, because Buck has more baseball players to work with. I think we're going to have a great summer in New York, and I think the Red Sox. I know your wife's a Red Sox fan, and I told you a while back, forget it. She's got to find another team.
She found another football team. She likes the Bengals now because she likes Joe Burrow.
How could you not like Joe Burrow?
She loves Joe Burrow. He's so cute.
You gotta love Joe Burrow. To me, he might be, and this is quite a statement here. And I know I'm changing over sports. First of all, your wife, I'm sure she's got the pink hat, Boston fan. She's got the pink hat going because there's a lot of women fans for the Red Sox. Thank God, they're great fans. I used to know a woman who worked in the front office of the Red Sox. Genius, literally, she's a genius. She worked a lot of numbers for them. She kind of got, when Lucchino left, she had to leave. So I'm a big fan of women in sports and women backing their sports teams. So God bless your wife. Hopefully it works out. But I think it's going to be a long haul.
You have a great holiday season, and we'll get back to you in the new year, my friend. Thank you so much for everything you do for the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, always a pleasure. Merry Christmas to everybody. And I didn't pick up the first time because we're getting the tree fell down for the fourth time this year. It's a long story. Right. It's a long story, but the windows had to be washed, and but we're trying to fix that. So I wish there was alcohol involved, but there isn't.
All right. Thank you, KK.
Okay, fellas.
God bless.
Bye.
Kevin Kernan, everybody. Ball